Soft jazz music hums through the dimly lit room. The scent of roses lingers in the air, mixing with the flickering glow of candlelight. A table set for 2 red wine, delicate plates, and a single untouched gift box. Emma stands in front of the mirror, tilting her face slightly as she glides deep red lipstick over her lips. Her black silk dress clings to her body, the thin straps teasing against her bare shoulders. She looks stunning, seductive, guilty. Her eyes flick to the clock, 7:45 p.m. Mark should have been here, but he isn't. Her heart pounds against her ribs, but not from loneliness. From anticipation. Then the doorbell rings. She grips the vanity, breathing in sharply. One last chance to stop this. One last chance to undo everything. But her legs move before her mind catches up, her hands already reaching for the doorknob. The door swings open. Jason stands there, broad-shouldered, effortlessly confident. His dark eyes scan her, lips curling into that familiar smirk. "Wow, you look." He leans in slightly, his voice dipping lower. "Dangerous." Emma swallows hard, stepping aside to let him in. Jason moves through the house like he belongs there. He shrugs off his coat, tossing it onto the couch. She watches him with a hunger she shouldn't feel. She pours them both a drink, fingers trembling slightly as the wine fills the glass. When she finally turns, Jason is standing closer than before. Too close. "You're late." Her voice is barely a whisper. "Had to make sure you were sure about this," he says, watching her over the rim of his glass. Emma exhales, forcing a small smile. If she were going to back out, she would have done it long before now. She lifts her own glass to her lips, but the taste is bitter. Or maybe it's just the weight of her choices settling on her tongue. Across the room, a framed wedding photo sits on the table. Mark's familiar, trusting face smiles back at her. Emma's chest tightens. She turns away. Jason follows her gaze, his smirk fading slightly. "You don't have to do this," he murmurs. "That's the problem. She wants to." The tension is suffocating. Jason steps forward, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers trail down her arm, leaving a path of fire in their wake. Then her phone buzzes. Emma jolts, whipping around. Mark calling. Her stomach drops. Jason raises an eyebrow, amused. "Answer it," he whispers. Emma hesitates. Her breath is shallow, her fingers trembling as they hover over the screen. Finally, she presses accept. "Hey, babe." She forces a steady voice. "Hey, sweetheart." Mark's voice is warm, unaware. "Just wanted to say happy Valentine's Day. I miss you." Emma grips the edge of the table, her knuckles turning white. She feels Jason's eyes on her, watching, waiting. He lifts his glass in a slow, teasing toast. Emma forces a smile, her voice barely above a whisper. "I miss you too." She hangs up. Silence thickens in the air. Jason tilts his head, his fingers tracing the stem of his wine glass. "Now, where were we?" Emma exhales, closing her eyes for a brief second. Just one night, she tells herself. He'll never find out. She has no idea how wrong she is. The next morning, the air is thick with the scent of regret. Sunlight filters through the curtains, stretching across the bed where Emma lies alone. The other side of the bed is empty. Jason had left before dawn, just as they had planned. She turns onto her side, staring at her phone on the nightstand. Her finger hovers over the screen before she finally picks it up. No new messages from Mark. A strange mixture of relief and guilt washes over her. Then, a message appears. "Jason. Last night was unforgettable. Let's not make it the last." Emma swallows hard, her stomach twisting. She types out a response that was a mistake. It can't happen again, but she doesn't press send. Instead, she deletes the message. Her eyes drift toward the framed wedding photo on the dresser. Mark's face beams at her, frozen in time, his love unquestioning. She should feel something: remorse, shame, anything, but all she feels is a deep, unsettling emptiness. Her phone buzzes again. Mark. Morning, beautiful. Hope you slept well. Can't wait to see you tonight. Emma grips the phone, her breath catching in her throat. Tonight, he's coming home. Emma spends the day going through the motions. Cleaning, cooking, trying to erase every trace of what had happened. The house must look perfect. She must look perfect. By late afternoon, she's at the grocery store, picking up ingredients for Mark's favorite meal. She moves quickly, efficiently until she hears a familiar voice. Fancy seeing you here. Her blood runs cold. She turns, and there he is, Jason. He leans lazily against a shelf, smirking as he eyes her. What are you doing here? Emma hisses under her breath, glancing around nervously. Shopping, same as you, he says with a shrug. Relax, sweetheart, no one knows. Her jaw clenches. Sweetheart, the same word Mark uses. Jason steps closer, lowering his voice. I can't stop thinking about last night. Emma's pulse quickens. She grips the handle of her shopping cart tighter. Jason, you didn't seem so conflicted when you were in my arms. His eyes darken with amusement. Emma swallows hard, panic rising in her throat. This was a mistake. It's over. Jason studies her, then leans in slightly. His voice drops to a whisper. You sure about that? Before she can answer, her phone buzzes. Mark. Just landed. Be home soon. Emma inhales sharply. Jason notices, smirking. Guess we'll have to continue this conversation later, he murmurs before turning away. Emma watches him go, her heart hammering. That evening, she stands in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta sauce. The house smells warm, familiar, like comfort, like home. Like nothing ever happened. Then the sound of the front door unlocking sends a jolt through her. Mark steps inside, dropping his suitcase. His face lights up when he sees her. There's my girl, he says, pulling her into a warm embrace. Emma stiffens for a second before forcing herself to relax against him. I missed you, she whispers. I missed you too, Mark says, pulling back to study her. His eyes soften. You okay? You seem tense. Emma forces a smile. Just tired. Long day. Mark doesn't press further. He just kisses her forehead before moving to the dining table. As they eat, Mark tells her about his trip. She nods in the right places, laughs when she's supposed to. But her mind is elsewhere. Then, his phone rings. Mark glances at the screen. Sorry, it's work. Let me take this real quick. As he steps away, Emma exhales. But then her own phone buzzes. Her stomach drops. Jason. Her hand trembles as she opens the message. I miss you already. Meet me tomorrow? Emma closes her eyes, pulse pounding. She deletes the message. When Mark returns, he smiles at her. So, tell me about your night yesterday. What did you do? Emma grips her fork tighter. Her heart pounds against her ribs. Nothing special, she lies smoothly. Just relaxed at home. Mark nods, completely unaware. Emma forces a smile, but deep down, she knows, this is far from over. Emma's world starts crumbling the moment she reads the message. We need to talk. I know everything. Her breath catches in her throat. The sender's name makes her stomach twist into knots. Mark. Her hands tremble as she grips her phone tighter. Her heart pounds so loudly she swears it echoes through the house. This can't be real. He was fine last night. He kissed her, held her, trusted her. Her fingers hover over the screen, hesitating. Should she call him? Text back? Act normal? Before she can decide, the front door unlocks. She whirls around just as Mark steps inside. His face is unreadable. Not angry, not devastated, just eerily calm. Mark, she starts, but he holds up a hand. Sit down, Emma. His voice is low, controlled. A wave of nausea washes over her. She feels like a child caught red-handed, guilt bleeding through her every movement. Mark, please, let me explain. Sit down. The authority in his voice leaves no room for argument. Shaking, she lowers herself onto the couch. Mark walks to the TV, pressing a few buttons on the remote. The screen flickers to life. Emma's blood runs cold. It's her living room. Their living room. A recording. A security camera feed. And then she sees herself. Dressed in that black silk dress. Pouring wine. Smiling. Welcoming Jason into their home. Emma's heart stops. Her body goes rigid. Her ears start ringing. Her skin turning ice cold. This isn't happening. This isn't real. She watches herself on the screen laughing, touching, kissing. She sees Jason's hands on her. His lips. His smirk. The way she let him lead her upstairs. The video stops. Silence stretches between them. Emma bursts into tears. Mark, her voice breaks. I can explain. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. Mark just stares at her. His expression unreadable. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, he speaks. You weren't thinking? He repeats, his voice eerily calm. Then tell me, Emma, how many times did you not think? How many times did you bring him into our home? Emma's lips part, but no words come out. Because the truth is worse than she wants to admit. This wasn't just one night. It had started with stolen glances, late-night texts, coffee dates that turned into something more. A slow, intoxicating descent into betrayal. Mark sees the hesitation in her face. And that's when his expression finally cracks. A sharp, bitter laugh escapes him. He rubs his hands over his face, exhaling shakily. I thought I was losing my mind, he mutters. I thought I was just paranoid. That maybe I was imagining the distance between us. The coldness. The way you stopped looking at me like you used to. Emma reaches for him. Mark, I love you. I never stop loving you. He flinches away. Don't. His voice is sharp, cutting. You don't get to say that. Not after this. Tears spill down Emma's cheeks. She can't breathe, can't think. She has never seen him like this. Mark stands up, running a hand through his hair. His entire body is tense, his jaw clenched so hard it looks like he might break. Then he drops the real bombshell. Do you even know what I've been going through, Emma? His voice cracks. She stares at him, confused. What are you talking about? She whispers. Mark laughs bitterly. Of course you don't. A lump forms in her throat. Mark, what is it? He looks her dead in the eyes. I've been sick, Emma. Her heart stops. Sick? Her voice is barely a whisper. Mark nods slowly. Yeah, sick. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to worry you. I didn't want you to see me as weak. His voice falters, and for the first time, she sees it, the exhaustion in his face. The weight he's been carrying alone. Tears blur her vision. How did she miss this? I thought the distance between us was because of me, Mark says, voice hoarse. I thought maybe you sensed something was wrong. That you were pulling away because you were scared. But no. He lets out a broken laugh. You weren't pulling away because you were worried about me. You were pulling away because you were fucking someone else. Emma chokes on a sob. Mark, please, I didn't know. Because you never noticed, he snaps. You never asked. You were too busy sneaking around with him. The words slice through her like a knife. She feels like she's drowning. The room spins. She thought she had reasons. She thought Mark was the one drifting away. But now she realizes she was the one who stopped paying attention. Mark, please, she begs, reaching for him again. But this time, he steps back. I don't want to hear it, Emma. Her breath shudders. What are you saying? Mark meets her gaze, his eyes hollow. I'm saying I'm done. Emma sobs, shaking her head violently. No, you don't mean that, Mark. We can fix this. Fix this? He laughs again, but there's no humor in it. You think this is something we can just move past? She can't breathe. Mark turns away, exhaling deeply. He's made his decision. I'll stay at a hotel tonight. His voice is quiet, final. When I come back, I expect you to be gone. Emma screams. No, Mark, please, don't do this. I made a mistake. I swear it didn't mean anything. Mark stops at the door. He turns his head slightly, just enough to look at her one last time. It meant something to me. And with that, he's gone. Emma collapses to the floor, sobs racking her body. The weight of everything she destroyed suffocates her. The house is quiet now. The wedding photo on the dresser tilts slightly. The only thing left of their love is the ghost of what once was. Emma sits on the cold hardwood floor, her back against the couch. Tears stain her cheeks. The room feels unbearably empty. Mark is gone. Her mind replays his words like a broken record. When I come back, I expect you to be gone. Her body trembles as she hugs her knees to her chest. She had begged, pleaded, but he didn't even look back. She deserves this. She knows that, but knowing it doesn't make the pain any less unbearable. Her phone buzzes. She doesn't have to look to know who it is. Jason. She grabs the phone and hurls it across the room. It crashes against the wall, clattering to the floor, screen flickering. He was never what she wanted. He was just an escape. From the loneliness, from the routine, from her own fears of fading into the background of Mark's life. But Mark was never the problem. She was. She gets up, legs unsteady, and stumbles toward the dresser. Her hands shake as she picks up their wedding photo. The glass is cracked. A deep, jagged line cuts through Mark's face. Emma lets out a strangled sob and clutches the frame to her chest. Days pass. She moves through them in a haze, packing boxes, erasing traces of herself from the house. Everywhere she looks, she sees memories of what they used to be. It hits her, over and over again, what she lost. When she finally zips up the last suitcase, a car honks outside. Her best friend, Mia, waits by the curb, ready to take her in until she figures out what's next. Emma takes a shaky breath, looking around one last time. Her eyes land on the coffee table. Mark's spare house key sits there, cold and final. She picks it up and places it on the counter. Then, she walks out the door. And just like that, it's over. Weeks pass. Emma spends most of them in Mia's guest room, drowning in regret. Every day, she thinks about calling Mark, asking for another chance, but she knows it would be selfish. So she waits. For something. For nothing. Then, one morning, her phone buzzes. Her heart nearly stops when she sees the name. Mark. Hands shaking, she stares at the screen until the ringing stops. A message follows. Mark. Meet me at the cafe on 7th. Noon. She presses her hand against her chest, trying to slow her erratic heartbeat. Is this it? A second chance? Or the final goodbye? She doesn't know, but she's about to find out. Emma arrives at the cafe 10 minutes early. Mark is already there, sitting at a table by the window, looking down at his coffee. She hesitates before stepping inside. He looks different, lighter, somehow, as if the weight of her betrayal is no longer crushing him. As if he's moved on. She swallows hard and walks over. Mark glances up, his face unreadable. Hey. His voice is calm, distant. Hey, she whispers, taking a seat. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then, finally Mark exhales. I'm not here to rehash everything, he says. I just wanted to see you. To talk. One last time. Emma's breath catches. One last time. She nods slowly. Okay. Mark studies her. His gaze isn't full of anger anymore. Just sadness. I don't hate you, Emma. Her throat tightens. That's what she's been afraid of, that he despises her. But, he continues, voice softer now, I also can't be with you anymore. And I need you to accept that. Emma blinks back tears. She knew this was coming. But hearing it, it still feels like a knife to the chest. I know, she whispers. Mark nods, as if relieved that she understands. I wanted to say goodbye properly, he says. Because despite everything, you were the love of my life. And I don't want to remember you with bitterness. Emma breaks. Tears slip down her cheeks as she nods. You were the love of my life too, Mark. A ghost of a smile flickers across his lips. Take care of yourself, Emma. She watches as he stands, throws a few bills on the table, and walks toward the door. He doesn't look back, and this time Emma doesn't chase him.